Hello everyone, I'm Charlie Tolhurst and welcome to a video here on my YouTube channel Chaz the Squash. It's my first upload for a while on the Motormania series here on YouTube. If you want to watch my YouTube channel and get new videos, and please click like and subscribe to the channel, and I'll alert you when new videos get uploaded. Now, today is a car history video. It's a car video today. I'm going to be talking about a classic car today on this channel. And today's video is going to be about one of the most interesting and probably one of the most controversial cars made by British Leyland. This car was known as the Austin Metro, or just to put it bluntly, a car named the Metro that was badged under several different manufacturers during its production run. Now, the Metro was launched in 1980 by British Leyland. It used to be known as different code names. In fact, as well. In fact, the car was actually known as LC8, but originally it used to be called AOD18, which was originally a code name that was actually used for the Metro. The Metro got in development, it had different code names, but LC8 would be the official code name for the car. In 1980, the car launched after production started at the Longbridge factory, where most cars that British Leyland built under the Austin and Morris badges were being made. And the car was launched, and actually early on in its life was very successful. It was actually one of the best-selling cars of the early 1980s, actually, to be precise, thanks to its low running costs and also, just its low running costs and also easy driving experience. Not to say, though, that this car was very unreliable. It used to have lots of issues, particularly with surface rust bubbling up on the bonnet and on the doors every now and then as well. Now, the car used to be called the Austin Metro. Many people used to call it the Austin Metro or the Austin Mini Metro, whatever you want to call it, because when this car launched, it was done more on the budget side of things. It never used to be that appealing. It used to be done on the cheap, and it never really got a great start. It was not the best to drive. It only had a 4-speed gearbox as well. Back in the day then, in the mid-80s, many other car companies used bigger engines. And this car would start off life with an old A-series unit, which was used in cars as early as the 1960s, with the likes of Morris Minors and older Austin models using that engine. It really didn't start well, and later on as well, they then badged it as an MG Metro in the mid-1980s as well, in the bid to try and get more customers into the MG mark. However, though, the car never really took off. And it just didn't feel great to drive. It was very basic, it was not as roomy as a Ford Fiesta or a Vauxhall Nova or even a Peugeot 205 that were all better to drive back in the day. It never really took off in that kind of trend, and people were not particularly happy with it. They were not happy as well with the driving position. Some people were saying it felt like you were in a London double-decker bus, the way it was very too high, raised off the ground. It was too high for a car of this size, and it just didn't really do anything. It never really caught on with the public. Even though it was very popular, because it was cheap, many people had it as their first car. It was a cheap car, it was easy to get them around from A to B, but it never really took on that well. And yes, later in the 80s, it did get a facelift. So in the middle of the 80s, it got a facelift. The 5-speed gearbox was introduced. A 5-speed gearbox was introduced. And also the car was then fitted with the newer K-series engine that was featured in the newer British Leyland cars at the time, such as I think the Austin Maestro as well and the Montego, both using a newer engine. Things looked better for the Metro. It was getting the newer engines. However, though, by the late 80s, the design was dated, and it was clear to me that many buyers never really appreciated this car's existence. The fact that it started getting really dated later in its life. And as competition really started to heat up in the other parts of the Supermini Class, from Ford and Vauxhall and Peugeot bringing out newer models, it was clear to me that the Metro never really caught on in the eyes of the motoring world, especially also given the Mini was a significantly more comfortable car to ride and also significantly better to drive. They did try keep revising the Metro, and by the 1990s, the car just was badged a Rover. Rover decided to take over the ownership of this car. In the UK, this car would be simply known as the Rover Metro, whilst in many other around the world it'd be known as the Rover 100. And that was it really. That was the end of the car. It used, later on down the line, it did get the hydrogas suspension. You know, it did use a slightly different suspension setup. It was meant to be more comfortable on longer journeys, but it never really took off, this car. And it's such a shame when this car had so much potential. It was meant to be their answer to the Mini, and it was really meant to give the Mini a run for its money, but it failed to deliver what we all expected it to. It was never going to be a car that was going to do anything great. And, you know, many people own this car, I tell you what, over the years. Many people, famous celebrities own this car. One person in particular was Lady Diana. Diana, actually, you know, Prince Charles's ex-wife actually owned this car. As well, she was one of the first people to ever own a Metro, which was interesting, you know. And they also did a rally version called the 6R4, which, you know, done really well on the rally stages. But yeah, as I said, you know, Diana had one. Quite a few people, I think, even had celebrities had them as well. But it never really took off, and it's such a shame, you know. I mean, This car, it was an iconic car for the UK. You know, it was a small car, but it just never really got the great reception it ever wanted to. They never knew when they advertised this car when it came out. It never was really going to catch on from the public. It was not meant to be. It was meant to be, according to what British Leyland was saying, this was meant to be their answer to the Mini, and this was meant to be a car that they thought was going to make the world of the best of British motoring, that kind of huge factor they wanted, but it never really caught on. It's such a shame because, you know, this car was meant to be a huge car. The fact that it was done on a budget, there was no 5-speed gearbox when it launched, it made it so far behind its rivals in terms of modern standards. You know, it never really got a great rating for a crash test either. As well, I think the car even was very poor in safety. It's a shame. The Metro had the Metro had so much potential, but it ended up becoming one of the most disappointing cars of the decade here in Britain. And, you know, it never really was a great car, even though it was cheap to run and cheap to buy. You know, it was a cheap car, and then it never needed to be revolutionary and great. So that's what I think of the Metro. If any of you guys have owned the Metro, whether it was an Austin Metro, an MG Metro, a Rover Metro, or just the Metro in general, or a Mini Metro even, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear your experience of this car, how you found it, you know, because this car never used to have, it used to be unreliable, you know, there used to be problems with it, you know, it was expensive to get, like, the crankshaft done, you know, there was loads of issues with it overheating as well. The steering was very, very bland as well. The dashboard used to always play up. There used to be lots of issues with this car, so it wasn't reliable by a stretch of the imagination. But I'd like to hear, guys, what you make of this car in the comments. Let me know what you make of this car. Have you ever owned one of these Metros before? Because I'd love to hear your experience with this car, and it would be handy to learn for future reference. Anyway, that's the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching. Take care, and good night.